36 days. So by the time the fetus is about 8 to 9 weeks, the cardiac embryology and formation is complete. It's only that technology as it stands today does not allow us to image the heart at this early stage. Let us recapitulate the embryological precursors. The primitive heart actually is a straight tube, which is the fusion of two parallel tubes. After the fusion of the two parallel tubes, there is a single tube, and blood flows from the caudal end to the cranial end. The caudal end is the venous end, the cranial end is the arterial end. So let us look at the components of the early embryological heart from the arterial end to the venous end, or from the cranial end to the caudal end. So from above downwards, we have the conotrunkus here in yellow, the bulbus cordis in violet, the primitive ventricle in orange, the primitive atria in purple, and then comes the sinus venosus below this. So from above below we have conotrunkus, bulbus cordis, primitive ventricle and primitive atria. What do these structures give rise to? The conotrunkus gives rise to ascending aorta and pulmonary artery. The bulbus cordis gives rise to the right ventricle. The primitive ventricle gives rise to the left ventricle. The primitive atria give rise to both the right and left atrium. And the sinus venosus gives rise to the superior vena cava. So you can see that initially we have aorta pulmonary artery derivative on the top, right ventricle derivative in the middle, left ventricle derivative below, and the atrial derivatives below that. So that means the blood flows from the veins into atria, which is a common chamber, into left ventricle first, then into right ventricle, and then into aorta and pulmonary artery. So it's a unidirectional flow. Now this unidirectional flow has to be compartmentalized into right and left heart and into aortic and pulmonary circulation. So a simple linear transit of blood has to be converted into a complex structure called the heart, which we will see how it is possible. So two parallel tubes fuse across the midline in day 15. By day 21, it is a single tube with the components which I just explained to you. By day 28, the tube bends on inside itself and rotates. And by day 50, the cardiac structures are formed. How does this happen? So now we see that what I described is here in the form of a fused tube, and the tube elongates inside the pericardial sac. The sac has a finite size, so the elongating tube has to bend. So it bends with a bend towards the right side, and then it rotates clockwise so that the primitive ventricle and sinus venosus go left and posterior. The bulbus cordis comes anterior, and the bend happens at the junction of bulbus cordis and the primitive ventricle, which is called as the bulboventricular sulcus. Please let us spend some time here because these basics are very important. So by this bend which happens towards the right side, we get what is called as a de-looping of the heart. And by the clockwise rotation which happens, we bring the bulbus cordis anteriorly, the primitive ventricle to the left, and the primitive atria posteriorly. So what has happened? The bulbus cordis is anterior, so that is why the future right ventricle is anterior. The primitive ventricle is on the left side, that is why the future left ventricle is on the left side. The primitive atrium goes posterior, that is why the atria are the posterior most structures. When these are happening, the conotrunkus divides into pulmonary artery and aorta by spiral rotation. The pulmonary artery comes anterior, aorta goes posterior, and the pulmonary artery communicates with the bulbus cordis or right ventricle, and the aorta communicates with left ventricle or the primitive ventricle. I hope I have been slow and you have understood up to here. So these are not hypotheses, but these are actual proof from photographs of the developing heart. Now, when these happen, each step needs certain genes which are instrumental in taking forward these steps. So these genes like HAND1, HAND2, TBX, etc. are important in these mechanisms. And when genetic aberrations happen at these particular genes, then the particular embryological step has an aberration, and that aberration manifests as a physical deformity in the cardiac. So the looping or that depends on laterality inducing genes. And similarly, convolution has certain genes. So these are pictures which allow us to understand how the primitive four-chamber view looks like, where both the atria actually communicate with the ventricle by a single atrioventricular canal. So initially, the atria communicate with the left ventricle, and the left ventricle communicates with the right ventricle, and the atrioventricular canal is single. Then subsequently what happens? There is formation of two atria and two ventricles, but there is a common atrioventricular canal. And the interatrial and interventricular septums develop, which divide the atrium into two atria, ventricle into two ventricles, and which also have components coming from the center of the heart or the AV cushions, which convert the single atrioventricular canal into a tricuspid valve and a mitral valve, or a left AV canal and a right AV canal. So major septi are formed between 27 and 37 days, and endocardial cushions, AV cushions, monotruncal cushions, etc. give rise to various parts of the heart. I will not go into details of this. People who are interested can look into my course on fetal health. So now let us look at basic things. Interatrial septum has septum primum, foramen primum, foramen secundum, septum secundum, fossa ovalis, and septum primum flap in the order of formation. Interventricular septum is contributed by a muscular septum, a membranous septum, and a gonal septum. All three components together form the interventricular septum. And the common atrioventricular canal is divided by the endocardial cushions, which have growths and indentations, which divide it into right and left atrioventricular canals. So the interatrial septum has septum primum forming from roof of septum and going down. Before it reaches the endocardial cushion, the gap between the atria is ostium primum. That is the ostium primum. Then we have a perforation in the septum primum, which forms the ostium secundum. By then, the ostium primum fuses with the endocardial cushion. Then we have another septum called septum secundum forming to the right of the septum primum, which grows down and covers the lower part of the septum primum. And the oblique passage between the right and left atrium is the foramen ovale. As this intraatrial septum is forming, we have formation of openings of SVC, IVC into the right atrium, and we have absorption of pulmonary veins into the left atrium and formation of 4 pulmonary veins. So that's how the interatrial septum forms, and eventually we have blood going from right atrium to left atrium across the foramen ovale, and when it does so, it moves the septum primum, free end of the septum primum into the left atrium, which is the flap of the foramen ovale. Defects in the formation of the interatrial septum results in formation of atrial septal defect. And according to the defects, we have septum primum ASD, septum secundum ASD, sinus venosus ASD, and another type of ASD. So you have the septum primum ASD at the level of the crux. Then we have the fossa ovalis ASD at the level of foramen ovale. Then we have the sinus venosus ASD high up at the level of IVC-SVC insertion, and we have coronary sinus ASD at the level of the coronary sinus insertion. These are the 4 types of ASDs. The ventricular septum is formed by a muscular septum which arises from the free wall of the ventricle going about towards the endocardial cushion. We have a conal septum which arises from the right ventricular outflow tract, and we have a membranous septum which arises from the membranous part of the endocardial cushions. So defects in formation of these components leads to muscular VSD, membranous or perimembranous VSD, supracrystal or conal VSD. These are the types of ventricular septal defects. So this is the contribution from the free end of the ventricle, and that's the secondary interventricular foramen. This is the endocardial cushion, which gives rise to a component. So you can see the muscular component of the ventricular septum in red. You can see the membranous component in green, and you can see the bulbar component in light green. So these are the 3 components which fuse together to form the interventricular septum. So that's the embryology of the interventricular septum. At the same time, the conotruncus divides by a spiral septum and brings the single outlet, makes it into 2 outlets. And because of the spiral division, the anterior outlet, which gives the pulmonary artery, communicates with the anterior chamber, which is right ventricle, and the posterior outlet, which is the ascending aorta, communicates with the posterior chamber, which is the left ventricle. So that's how the conotruncus becomes the anterior pulmonary artery and posterior aorta at the origins. So with this very brief understanding of embryology, we are going to look at fetal circulation. We need to have a strong understanding of fetal circulation before we do any Doppler in the fetus and before we do a fetal echo. There are three shunts in a fetal circulation. Shunt 1 is the ductus venosus. Shunt 2 is the fossa ovalis. Shunt 3 is the ductus arteriosus. Why do we need these shunts? These shunts are needed to take the oxygenated blood from the maternal circulation through the placenta or umbilical vein into the left side of the fetal circulation so that it bypasses the fetal pulmonary circulation where there is no oxygenation going to happen. So that's the reason of these three shunts. Now let us look at the fetal circulation. So this is the placenta and that's the umbilical cord. Now the umbilical cord has two umbilical arteries and one umbilical vein. The different feature in fetus is that as compared to adult circulation, the umbilical vein takes oxygenated blood into the fetal circulation and the umbilical arteries take deoxygenated blood out of the fetal circulation. So that is the fundamental primary difference. So 100% oxygenated blood from the mother goes through umbilical vein towards the fetal liver and shunts the blood into the fetal portal vein and facilitates a larger amount of blood to go into fetal IVC through a structure called ductus venosus. So now we will understand why the ductus venosus is how it is made embryologically. The ductus venosus is a trumpet-shaped organ, muscular organ, which squeezes the slow-flowing, highly oxygenated blood in the umbilical vein in a high velocity into the IVC in a direction oblique enough and cranial to enter the right atrium and go across the fossa ovalis into the left atrium. So this muscular organ squeezes the oxygenated blood in a higher velocity so that the majority of it gets shunted via IVC right atrium, fossa ovalis into left atrium. Smaller amount of blood goes into portal vein, into the sinusoids and into the IVC. And the slow flowing blood which comes like this goes into the IVC, into the right atrium and is not shunted into the fossa ovalis onto the left atrium. So this passively flowing blood from the portal vein of the liver and also from the hepatic veins and lower limbs and gut of the fetus, which is deoxygenated blood, flows into the IVC and into the right atrium in a slow manner. And instead of getting shunted to the left side, flow across the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. Also, the SVC blood, which comes from head and neck, which is deoxygenated in blue, passively flows into right atrium across tricuspid valve into right ventricle. So you can see that the ductus venosus has pushed the oxygenated blood from mother into left atrium, whereas the IVC and SVC blood which comes into right atrium flows into right ventricle. So the deoxygenated blood which comes into right ventricle enters pulmonary artery and goes into right and left pulmonary arteries into the lungs just to keep the lungs perfused. And even at this point from the pulmonary artery, the ductus arteriosus shunts whatever little oxygenated blood is there into the descending aorta. So there is a second shunt here, helping the oxygenated blood to go into aorta and deoxygenated blood to go into lungs. Now the deoxygenated blood from the lungs enter via pulmonary veins into the left atrium and passively into left ventricle. And from the left ventricle, blood goes into the aorta. Now the oxygenated blood which enters into left atrium also has come into left atrium also has come into left ventricle. So this rich oxygenated blood goes into the aorta, into coronary arteries, to the myocardium, and into the head and neck, and into the descending aorta. So thus, this whole mechanism of three shunts give oxygen-rich blood to the myocardium, to the head and neck of the fetus, to the adrenals, and bypasses the pulmonary circulation. And the deoxygenated blood coming from SVC, IVC goes into pulmonary circulation and comes into the left atrium and left ventricle. And finally, the descending aorta, which has the deoxygenated blood, goes into umbilical arteries and then into the placenta and give the deoxygenated blood to the mother's circulation. So these are the differences between adult circulation and fetal circulation. And after birth, the ductus venosus closes, the foramen ovale closes, and the ductus arteriosus closes. So all the three shunts will close after birth. So if all of you have been with me and you have understood the fetal circulation, we will proceed further. This is another diagrammatic representation to show what happens in fetal circulation. These are the anatomy and function of umbilical arteries and veins, ductus venosus, foramen ovale, ductus arteriosus. And these are the sites where mixing of blood takes place in the liver, in the inferior vena cava, in the right atrium, in the left atrium, and in the aorta. After birth, the umbilical arteries close, the umbilical vein closes, ductus venosus closes, ductus arteriosus closes, and foramen ovale closes. I will not go into the detail of all these closures. So we have touched upon the embryology and the fetal circulation, and we will. Why should we do fetal echo? Cardiac anomalies are 6.5 times more than the routine anomalies, and also the association of chromosomal anomalies are high. Fetal echo can be done right from 13 weeks onwards up to any time in pregnancy, and it ideally has to be done at 18 to 19 weeks before the legal limit of termination in our country. We need to repeat fetal echo for evolving conditions, and earlier there used to be indications for fetal echo, but I believe that today all women during their anomaly scan should have a fetal echo. Because if you selectively do fetal echo for those you feel that they deserve it, then 90% of cardiac anomalies will be missed. The incidence of chromosomal anomalies in congenital heart disease is 5 to 13%. And the incidence of congenital heart disease in chromosomal abnormalities is 50%. And aneuploidy is seen highest in atrioventricular septal defect and lowest in congenital transposition of great arteries. So all anomaly scans should include a basic fetal echo. Now that we have understood that fetal echo is very important, let us look at how to learn and do a good fetal echo. The success behind a good fetal echo is a detailed, dedicated protocol. And this protocol has an anatomical survey, a functional assessment, and a decision on management. Anatomical survey is by 2D and color. Functional assessment is by Doppler and M mode. And decision on management is what you have to learn and what you need to counsel the patient about so that they understand how to proceed after the diagnosis of a fetal echo. So we have certain aims of demonstration when we do a fetal echo. So we need to demonstrate a few structures during the fetal echo. What are these structures to be demonstrated? Abdominal situs, cardiac situs, size, position, squeeze. Veno-atrial concordance, that means communication of veins with the atria. Atrioventricular concordance, that means communication of left atrium to left ventricle, right atrium to right ventricle. Ventriculo-arterial concordance, that means communication of left ventricle to aorta, right ventricle to pulmonary artery. Interatrial anatomy or septum, interventricular anatomy or septum. Cardiac outlets and relationships, that is aorta, pulmonary artery and their relationship. Fetal shunts anatomy, ductus venosus, fossa ovalis and ductus arteriosus. So these are our aims when we talk about anatomical demonstration of the structure of a fetal heart. How can we do all these demonstrations? We can do this with the help of 5 axial views, 6 sagittal and oblique views, and 5 Dopplers. Okay, 5 axial views, 6 sagittal and oblique views, and 5 Dopplers. So 16 views have to be, or 16 attempts have to be done to demonstrate these view structures or aims. The axial views from below above are upper abdomen view. So if anybody asks you what is the first view of a fetal echo, you have to say it is the upper abdomen view, not the cardiac view. So the 5 axial views are upper abdomen view, 4-chamber view, 5-chamber view, 3-vessel view, 3-vessel tracheal view. Is that clear? So we have upper abdomen view, 4-chamber view, 5-chamber view, 3-vessel view, 3-vessel tracheal view. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From below to above, without rotating the transducer in an axial plane. Okay, 5 axial views. Then we have 6 sagittal and oblique views. Right ventricular outflow tract view, left ventricular outflow tract view, ductal arch view, aortic arch view, bicaval hammock view, circle and sausage view. Now it looks a little difficult, isn't it? But let us see the pictures and it will be easy for you. So the 6 sagittal and oblique views are the right ventricular outflow view, the left ventricular outflow view, the ductal arch view, the aortic arch view, the bicaval or hammock view, and the right ventricular short axis view. Is that clear? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out of these, some are sagittal and some are slightly oblique. The 5 Dopplers which we need to do are the mitral Doppler, tricuspid Doppler, aortic Doppler, pulmonary artery Doppler, and mitral aortic Doppler. So 2 atrioventricular valve Dopplers, 2 ventriculo-arterial valve Dopplers, 1 atrioventricular Doppler or mitral aortic Doppler. 5 Dopplers. So this is atrioventricular Doppler, mitral or tricuspid. This is ventriculoarterial Doppler, aortic or pulmonary. And this is mitral aortic continuity Doppler or atrioventricular Doppler. So we need to do 5 Dopplers as given in these 3 pictures. So 5 axial views, 6 sagittal oblique views, and 5 Dopplers. Now if you put all together and if you add certain more structures which to be demonstrated, you will have a complete assessment of the heart and you will not miss any cardiac anomaly, except for a few which we will look at as we go forward. So for complete fetal echo assessment, we have abdominal situs view, cardiac situs axis position assessment, 4-chamber view, 5-chamber view, 3-vessel view, 3-vessel tracheal view, LVOT view, RVOT view, short axis view, ductal arch view, aortic arch view, hammock view. Then we can show pulmonary vein anatomy view, IVC aorta relationship view, Dopplers, and a mode. So this will complete this structural and functional assessment of the heart. The same has been depicted or demonstrated by line diagrams in the internet, and you can look at multiple articles which are there which demonstrate these views of the heart. Now let us assume that all of you have understood the views and now are ready to start demonstrating the views. Whenever we start a scan, we need to understand the position of the baby in terms of cephalic or breech, lie of the baby, and we need to understand that the heart apex points towards the probe only in these 2 positions. When the baby is in breech, the spine to the left is the position where heart points anteriorly. When the baby is in cephalic, spine to right is the view where the heart apex points anteriorly. The other views, the apex will point posteriorly. So we need to wait for the apex to point anterior before starting fetal echo. So let us look at the positions of the fetus in the uterus and the cardiac position. So when it's in breech, when the spine is posterior, the apex points to the left and anterior. When it is breech and spine is anterior, apex points posteriorly. When it is breech and spine is to the right, apex points posterior. And when it is breech and spine to the left, the cardiac apex points anterior. When it is cephalic, spine posterior, apex points anterior. When it is cephalic and spine anterior, the cardiac apex points posterior. When it is cephalic, spine to right, the apex points anterior. When it is cephalic, spine to left, the apex points posterior. So we have 8 positions of the fetus, among which 4 positions are favorable to do fetal echo. So wait for these 4 positions. Samsung has 5D cardiac technology, where when the apex points anteriorly, with one single sweep of the heart and with a few seconds of post-processing, you will get all the axial and sagittal views of the heart within 1 minute. And this is called 5D of the heart. This is both in static and in real time with auto labeling, and that's artificial intelligence which has come into play in demonstrating the cardiac views. So anybody now can show all the cardiac views if there is a good window and the apex is pointing anteriorly with 5D heart technology by Samsung. Now we come into the views per se. I will take you through all the views now. So the upper abdomen view, we need to look at the aorta, the IVC, and their relationship, and we need to show the absence of any other vessel in between them at the level of the upper abdomen. Aorta is immediately anterior and to the left of the spine. IVC is a little more anterior to the spine and slightly to the right. That's the normal relationship of aorta and IVC. Any other anechoic structure in between aorta and IVC is a water-filled esophagus, which will not fill with color and which will disappear in a short while. If you see any other vessel in between aorta and IVC, I think my audio.
So we are seeing a little audio being break over here. I think we are facing an internet issue, sir.
Now, am I audible clearly?
Yes, sir. It's very clear, sir.
Can I continue? Okay, I'll continue, okay?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Am I visible also?
So your webcam has been turned off, but your audio and presentation can be seen to the attendees. So you can proceed, sir.
Okay. Do you want my webcam?
It's working now well, sir. But if we experience any net issue, then we might turn it off, sir.
No problem. Okay,
Please
you
go ahead.
can.
Yeah,
So,
sure, sir.
if you have any other structure in between aorta and IVC, then think of a vertical vein from a TAPVC going down, or think of an abnormal vessel like the azygous vein coming up from abdomen into the chest in isomerism. So just by showing an extra vessel, we can diagnose a heterotaxy or a TAPVC from the upper abdominal view. So now this is the four-chamber view, which is the second cardiac view. And we can show it either in an apical view or a lateral view. So this is a lateral four-chamber view. So in the four-chamber view, we need to label the chambers first. In order to label the chambers, we have to first know which is the left side of the fetus and which is the right side of the fetus. Now for that, we should have done our homework in terms of the lie of the fetus, and we have decided that this is the left side of the fetus. After we label the left side of the fetus, then look at what are the chambers on the left and what are the chambers on the right. And do not label the left-sided chambers as left ventricle and left atrium. And do not label the right-sided chambers as right ventricle and right atrium. We have to make sure that it is right ventricle and right atrium, not by the position in relation to the fetal body, but by the anatomical continuity and their structure. So follow the IVC and bring it into the chest, and it should open into the right atrium or the chamber on the right side. Get the pulmonary veins from the lungs, and then they should open into the left-sided atrium. After you make sure these two things have happened, follow the right atrium above into the SVC. Then label this as the right atrium and this as the left atrium. Look at the center of the heart. The center of the heart is made up of a structure called crux. The crux has four components. The septum primum on the atrial side, the membranous part of the interventricular septum, the upper part of the muscular interventricular septum, the septal leaflet of mitral valve, and septal leaflet of tricuspid valve. So these four structures form an X-shaped structure, which is called as the crux of the heart. If you observe the crux of the heart, the tricuspid valve will insert more apically and the mitral valve will insert more basally. So this results in an oblique septum between the right atrium and left ventricle. So this is called as the atrioventricular septum. So figure out which is the septum, which is the valve or septal leaflet which is more apically situated, and call that as a tricuspid valve. And don't call this as tricuspid valve because it's on the right side of the fetus. Then look at the chamber which the tricuspid valve communicates with and see if that chamber is more trabeculated and has a moderator band. And look at the septal leaflet which is more basally attached and then call it mitral valve, and look at what is the chamber which it attaches and make sure that it is smooth and it forms the apex of the heart, and then only call it left ventricle. So the 4-chamber view will have 4 chambers of equal size. It will have a crux which is well formed. It will have 2 pulmonary veins. It will have an interatrial foramen ovale, and it will have a septum primum, septum secundum, muscular interventricular septum, and tricuspid valve and mitral valve. Also, the 4-chamber view should make you look at the size of the heart, axis of the heart, squeeze of the heart, and position of the heart within the chest. So this is how we calculate the axis of the heart. You draw a line across the interventricular septum to the crux and another line across the mid-sagittal plane, and the angle subtended is the axis of the heart. Normally it's between 40 to 60 degrees. Apical 4-chamber view is obtained when the cardia is pointing cranially and the interventricular anteriorly, and the interventricular septum is parallel to the ultrasound beam. It is important to show both the apical 4-chamber and the lateral 4-chamber views. Now, when we look at the atria, after we have labeled the right atrium and left atrium by the SVC, IVC and pulmonary vein confluences, we have to demonstrate the triangular left atrial appendage on the left atrium and the broad-based right atrial appendage on the right atrium. So here is a beautiful picture showing the right atrial extension into a broad-based ear-shaped, shallow right atrial appendage, and the left atrium communicating with a finger-like, linear, triangular, thin, narrow left atrial appendage. So the appendages are extremely helpful in order to understand that this is right atrium and this is left atrium. The left ventricle has a signature of forming the apex and having a smooth internal surface. The right ventricle has a signature of being more trabecular and having a vecogenic moderator band which connects the interventricular septum with the papillary muscle. The tricuspid valve inserts more apically, mitral valve inserts more basally. And if you are not careful enough, you can actually demonstrate loss of offset of the valves as shown here. But if you look carefully, you can show that there is indeed an offset of the valve. So this picture looks like ASD, VSD and loss of offset as if there is a atrioventricular septal defect. But if you angulate it carefully and then do it properly, there is no ASD, no VSD, and there is a apical insertion of tricuspid valve and there is a atrioventricular septum. The foramen ovale flap or foramen ovale apparatus has a septum primum, which is communicating with the crux, has a septum secundum, which communicates with the roof of the atrium. In between the septum primum and septum secundum is an opening between the atria, which is the fossa ovalis, and the fossa ovalis is closed from above below by the flap of foramen ovale. And the flap of foramen ovale opens into the left atrium during the cardiac pulsations. So you can see that this is the left atrium, this is the left atrium. The flap of foramen ovale opens into the left atrium, and the flap is nothing but a mobile septum primum. In a far lateral 4-chamber view, we can actually see flow from right atrium into left atrium across the foramen ovale, and Doppler demonstration of the passive flow of the flow of blood facilitated by ductus venosus from right to left atrium can be demonstrated by Doppler. when we apply color Doppler, the interventricular foramen should be completely intact and there should be no color across the ventricles, which will rule out a muscular interventricular septal defect. Pulmonary veins are 4 in number, and only the 2 inferior pulmonary veins can be visualized in a 4-chamber view. And you can see the right pulmonary vein, left pulmonary vein entering into the left atrium. That's the left pulmonary vein, and that's the right pulmonary vein entering into the left atrium. And we can follow the pulmonary veins deeper into lungs and make sure that there is no PAPVC or TAPVC, which is anomalous pulmonary venous drainage types. From the 4-chamber view, just move the transducer cranially above without rotation, and you will get the 5th chamber emerging out of the left ventricle. Apply color Doppler, and you can show that the color is entirely from the left ventricle into the 5th chamber, which is the ascending aorta, and you should not have any color coming from right ventricle into the ascending aorta. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is the 5th 5-chamber view, which shows the ascending aorta coming out completely from left ventricle with no contribution from the right ventricle. A little above, you will get the 3-vessel view. The 3-vessel view is a very important view of fetal echo. The 3 vessels are from left to right, pulmonary artery, aorta, superior vena cava. And the mnemonic is PAS, PAS. So the 3-vessel view has many characteristics. The 3 vessels are 1, 2, 3, pulmonary artery, aorta, superior vena cava. They are big, medium, small. They are anterior, mid, and posterior, and they are only 3 in number. So these are the characteristics of 3-vessel view. 1, 2, 3, pulmonary artery, aorta, superior vena cava, big, medium, small, anterior, mid, posterior. Any difference in any of these characteristics which I have mentioned, if you can find, then a cardiac anomaly in the outlets can be diagnosed very easily. And in front of the 3-vessel view, you will have this mildly echogenic, perforated appearing thymic gland. Apply color Doppler. 3-vessel view should have the pulmonary artery and aorta in one color and superior vena cava in the opposite color. And because both pulmonary artery and aorta take blood out of the heart to the outside, they should be in the same color. If any of these vessels shows a reversal in color, then that means there is proximal obstruction of that particular vessel. After the 3-vessel view, the pulmonary artery becomes the ductus arteriosus. So this is the ductus arteriosus in 2D and color, which connects the pulmonary artery with the descending aorta. So this is the pulmonary artery, this is the descending aorta, this is the ductus arteriosus. Here you can see the ductus arteriosus. Am I audible? So now from the 3-vessel view, we can just rotate the transducer a little bit to demonstrate the right branch pulmonary artery and left branch pulmonary artery. So the right branch pulmonary artery will go posterior to aorta and superior vena cava to the right lung, and left branch pulmonary artery will go to the left lung. Above the 3-vessel view, if you just move the transducer without rotation, we will get 3-vessel tracheal view. The 3-vessel tracheal view is nothing but continuation of pulmonary artery into ductus arteriosus, continuation of ascending aorta into aortic arch. So the pulmonary artery which is on the left continues as ductus arteriosus and stays on the left posteriorly. But look at the aorta which is on the right, sweeps towards the left and goes and meets the ductus arteriosus to the left of the trachea. This is the trachea. And this confluence or meeting of ductus arteriosus and arch of aorta is in the shape of an English letter V. And that is why we call this as a V confluence of the three-vessel tracheal view. So when we put color, this is first trimester, this is second trimester. The three-vessel view becomes three-vessel tracheal view. And what is three-vessel tracheal view? It is continuation of pulmonary artery as ductus arteriosus, continuation of ascending aorta as aortic arch, and both these meet to the left of trachea in the shape of a V, and that is the three-vessel tracheal view. For beginners, I think this may be a little difficult, but I've tried to be very slow, and I've explained to you what is three-vessel view and what is three-vessel tracheal view. For those who know all what I have said, above the three-vessel tracheal view, we have the brachiocephalic view, where the left brachiocephalic vein crosses to the right and enters superior vena cava. And also here we have the azygous vein entering into superior vena cava. So above the three-vessel tracheal view, you have the venous views, where we have the left brachiocephalic crossing into the right side and going into SVC in a transverse plane, and the azygous vein crossing from posterior mediastinum into anterior mediastinum and joining the SVC. So the SVC will receive brachiocephalic vein and azygous vein in this view. Even more above, if you move the transducer, you will be able to show the left subclavian artery and the right subclavian artery, and this is called cycle handlebar view. And this shows the both subclavian arteries are coming from the aorta normally, and this view will rule out an aberrant right or aberrant left subclavian artery origin. Now, from the three-vessel view, the pulmonary artery comes out. If you rotate the transducer towards the right shoulder of the fetus, then you will get the right pulmonary artery emerging out, going posterior to aorta and SVC. So this is the right branch pulmonary artery. The left branch pulmonary artery will go into the left lung from the main pulmonary artery. With a little practice, you can show pulmonary artery, left branch pulmonary artery, right branch pulmonary artery. The right branch pulmonary artery is long, left branch pulmonary artery is short. And the right branch pulmonary artery goes posterior to aorta and superior vena cava. The left branch pulmonary artery enters the left lung immediately from P. It is important to show the confluence of both pulmonary arteries, size and patency of both pulmonary arteries, because in Fallot's tetralogy and right ventricular outflow obstructions, the branch pulmonary artery anatomy, presence, size, and confluence has to be told to the pediatric cardiologist. So we have finished abdominal view, 4-chamber view, 5-chamber view, 3-vessel view, 3-vessel tracheal view, and now we go to sagittal oblique views. From the axial view, you rotate the transducer 90 degrees, or you make the transducer parallel to the spine. The right ventricle will be anterior, and the vessel coming out from the right ventricle will be the pulmonary artery, and it will be immediately below the sternum. So this is the RVOT view, and this is the pulmonary artery coming out of the right ventricle. So that's the RVOT view. Rotate the transducer to the left shoulder of the fetus, and you will get the left ventricular outflow tract view. Now, the left ventricular outflow tract view has certain characteristics. So this is the left ventricular chamber. The right ventricular chamber anteriorly is over. We have moved to the other side. From the left ventricle comes out the ascending aorta. This is the interventricular septum. So this is the anterior wall of aorta. This is the posterior wall of aorta. The interventricular septum should seamlessly continue with the anterior wall of aorta in a collinear fashion. If there is any interruption in this collinear continuity, then there is a VSD in the membranous septum. Similarly, the posterior wall of aorta and the aortic valve will continue with the anterior mitral valve. This is left atrium, this is left ventricle, this is mitral valve. So the anterior mitral valve continues with the posterior wall of aorta and posterior aortic valve. So this is called as the aortomitral continuity. And if you do a Doppler here, you will go get both aortic valve and mitral valve simultaneously in cardiac systole and diastole. And this is a very important Doppler which we will see as we go forward. From the right ventricular outflow tract view, further rotate the probe and we will get what is called as the right ventricular short axis view or circle and sausage view. So this circle and sausage view shows the hemodynamics of the entire right heart circulation. Here you have SVC, right atrium, tricuspid valve, right ventricle, pulmonary artery, right branch pulmonary artery. So the entire right heart circulation is here. And what is sandwiched inside? The cross section of the aorta, ascending aorta, is sandwiched inside. And this is a view to beautifully show the relationship, size relationship between the pulmonary artery and aorta. Then in the sagittal plane, just move to the right of the midline and we will be able to demonstrate a long IVC, a right atrium and a short ISVC. And this is called as the hammock view because it resembles a hammock, and this is also called as bicable view. It's important to show this view because an IVC interruption can be picked up if you are unable to show a long IVC connecting to right atrium, which is a part of left isomerism or heterotaxy syndrome. Then we have to demonstrate the aortic arch view, which many times is very easily demonstrable when the fetus spine is anterior. So this is an oblique view. The ascending aorta starts from the mid-chest. This is the anterior chest, this is the posterior chest. So the ascending aorta rises from mid-chest, takes a sharp curve, gives rise to great vessels, and continues down a handle of an umbrella. So the umbrella is aortic arch. This is the high frequency probe showing the ascending aorta, arch of aorta, great vessels, and descending aorta. So this is the aortic arch view. In color, you can see the beautiful umbrella-stick appearance of the aortic arch. Now, this is the ductal arch view. The ductal arch view is got in the mid-sagittal plane. It is the continuation of right ventricle, which is immediately below the sternum, and the pulmonary artery, which is below the sternum, the ductus arteriosus, the descending aorta. So this has a large curve, no branches, and it resembles a hockey stick. So the ductus arteriosus is, or the ductal arch, is a continuation of pulmonary artery, ductus arteriosus, descending aorta, and this is how the ductal arch view looks in color Doppler. Finally, we need to show the ductus venosus. It can be shown in a mid-sagittal plane, that's the umbilical vein, ductus venosus IVC, or it can be shown in oblique coronal plane, that's the umbilical vein, portal vein, ductus venosus IVC. In the superior mediastinum, above the three-vessel view, we can see the thymus. With a low pulse repetition frequency and color scale, we can show both the internal mammary arteries on either side, the brachiocephalic vein posteriorly, and the sternal manubrium sternum anteriorly. And this is called as the thymic box and inside this box is the embryological thymus. In all fetal echoes, we have to demonstrate the thymus because aplasia of thymus is a clue for DiGeorge syndrome and outlet anomalies. When the fetus has the spine anterior, the cardiac apex will point further away and doing a fetal echo will be difficult. But it can be done as shown here. Everything will be in the opposite direction and we need to demonstrate all the components. Measurements are to be done in the 4-chamber view on either sides of the valves, atrioventricular valves, with the end diastolic picture in view. So that's the chamber sizes in diastole on the atrial side and ventricular side. Outlets can be measured at the valvular level or supravalvular level. So that's the pulmonary artery in RVOT view measurement. That's the aorta in LVOT view measurement, ascending aorta. Mitral Doppler has to be done at the left atrioventricular valve, and the valve should straddle and the sample box should straddle the valve so as not to miss a regurgitation. And we will look at the mitral Dopplers in the functional study. So this is the tricuspid Doppler, that's the mitral Doppler. The tricuspid and mitral Dopplers or AV Dopplers have 2 peaks as shown here. The aortic and pulmonary artery Dopplers have a single peak as shown here. The ductus arteriosus has a single peak and it has a very high velocity. The ductus arteriosus is the cardiac structure which has the highest velocity in the fetal circulation. Dopplers can be done across the pulmonary veins, which show the egress of fluid from pulmonary veins into the left atrium. And during the atrial systole, there is a natural reversal of flow, which is the A wave. So pulmonary veins will have a natural, normal reversed A wave. IVC and SVC also will have a reversal of flow when the atrium contracts. So during atrial systole, there is a reversed A wave, which is normal. When you do the Doppler across the aortic and mitral valve, we will get what is called as the aortomitral Doppler, which is an inlet-outlet Doppler. At 12 weeks, when we do the NT scan, it is important to do a 12-week fetal echo, which is not difficult. All we need to do is get the apex of the heart anterior and use color Doppler and show the inflow in red and outflow in blue. So 2 inflows in red pointing to the left should have 2 outflows in blue again pointing to the left. So the confluence of the confluence of the arteries in the outlet view. One second, please. Just hold on. So the confluence of arteries in the outlet view should point to the left if the apex has been pointing to the left in the 12-week color Doppler. Now quickly we will see what else can we show in color. The hepatic veins, the portal vein, the main portal vein, the left and right branch portal vein, the hepatic artery, the celiac axis, superior mesenteric artery, in axial plane, the SMA and SMV and their relationship. Microvascular flow can show a lot of vessels in the fetal circulation, circle of Willis, cerebral venous sinuses, carotid arteries, vertebral artery, pulmonary veins, aorta, IVC, iliac vessels, umbilical arteries, renal arteries, superior mesenteric artery and vessels and branches, femoral artery, deep femoral, superficial femoral artery, popliteal artery, anterior and posterior arteries, innominate artery, brachial artery, radial artery, palmar branch. The quadrilateral sign of umbilical artery entering and communicating descending aorta, umbilical vein going into the IVC, forming the quadrilateral sign. The same thing in color Doppler. The X sign of umbilical arteries and umbilical vein, placental vasculature. Early embryo at 8 weeks can show the entire fetal circulation. That's the umbilical vein, ductus venosus, cardia, arch of aorta, carotid vessels, descending aorta, umbilical artery, and all the respective Dopplers. So we have now finished the basics of embryology, a little bit of anatomy, looked at the normal views in 2D in color, Dopplers across the valves, and usage of microvascular flow to demonstrate fetal circulation. Those who are interested in pursuing a course in fetal echo can call me on this number. You can take a snap of this slide. You can ping me on this number, or you can Google Dr. Pradeep Srinivasan.medinit.org. I have 3 courses for students, radiologists, one in fetal echo, one in fetal aneuploidy, one in anal sonography. Now we are going to look at cine loops of all the fetal anatomy which we have seen. The cine loops will start from the abdominal view and go up into the superior mediastinum. And whatever I have showed you in static, now I will show you in live cines as if we are doing a live workshop. So we will start from the abdomen. So here we have an abdominal view where the IVC and aorta have been taken up into the cardia. So in the abdominal view, you can see that the aorta is immediately anterior to the left of the spine. IVC is immediately more, not immediately, it is more anterior and slightly to the right of midline. So this is the left-sided aorta, this is the right-sided IVC, and in between we have the esophagus. So that's the upper abdominal view in cine loop. So first we need to demonstrate the situs of the abdomen, which includes showing the aorta on the left side of the fetus, IVC on the right side of the fetus, also showing the stomach on the left side of the fetus and liver on the right side of the fetus. So after we have done this, we will look at the next view. Now the next view is without color, and it again shows the upper abdominal view. I take it into the chest to show you the confluence of IVC with the right atrium. So in the upper abdomen, you can see on 2D the anatomy of aorta and IVC, and also the relationship of the aorta to IVC. What should not be there is the IVC should not be sagittally straight anterior to the aorta, nor the IVC should not be by the side of the aorta. If any of these two things are there, then we are dealing with heterotaxy. Next, we come to IVC 4-chamber view, 5-chamber view, 3-vessel view, 3-vessel tracheal view. So this has summarized the entire axial view. I will run it for you. That's the IVC entering the right atrium. This is the left atrium, pulmonary veins entering left atrium. That's the crux of the heart. Now the 5th chamber, which is the ascending aorta, is coming out from the left ventricle. This is right ventricle. Then we have the 3-vessel view and the 3-vessel tracheal view. Now we will concentrate on the crux alone. So this is the crux, which has the septum primum, muscular IV septum, and the 2 septal leaflets. This is the mitral septal leaflet, that's a tricuspid septal. This is the mitral septal leaflet. This is the tricuspid septal leaflet. Look at the apical insertion of the tricuspid leaflet. Now observe, this is the tricuspid leaflet, and it has a more apical insertion. And look at the mitral septal leaflet on the left side, which has a more basal insertion on the crux. So now observe both the leaflets together. It will be joined by an oblique line between right atrium and left ventricle. So that is the atrioventricular septum. So by demonstrating the atrioventricular septum, you have ruled out the possibility that there is loss of offset of the septal leaflets. So the crux should be intact as shown here. There is no ASD, there is no VSD, there is offset of the tricuspid and mitral valves. Now this is another 4-chamber view which shows the interventricular septum communicating with the crux continuously. Sometimes when we have a dropout artifact like what is shown here, the oblique lateral 4-chamber view or the far lateral 4-chamber view will help us show the interventricular septum touching the crux and ruling out a VSD. Now this is far lateral 4-chamber view, where the interventricular septum is seen as a thicker structure. So, and it will rule out a doubt of an inlet VSD. And the thicker structure, if you observe, on either sides has papillary muscles, and the right ventricle papillary muscles will enter the interventricular septum. Left ventricular papillary muscles will go to the apex of the heart. So that's why the interventricular septum will be coarse on the right ventricle side and it will be smooth on the left ventricle side. So this is a far lateral 4-chamber view which shows the absence of a VSD. Now this is another 4-chamber view which is slightly lateral, and this view again will help us look at the anatomy of the interventricular septum. Now I use color Doppler, and you can see the atrioventricular flow across the atrioventricular valves, and there is no mix-up of color across the interventricular septum. Now this is again another extreme lateral 4-chamber view. You can actually see the septum primum, the septum secundum, and the fossa ovalis flap going into left atrium, and the entire interventricular septum. And this is the best view to make sure that there is no ASD or VSD, especially when you are wanting to look at the inlet VSD and a septum primum ASD. So this is far lateral 4-chamber view in CT. So now this is another 4-chamber view with a high frequency probe. So you can see the structures much clearer and observe the crux, the apical insertion of tricuspid valve, basal insertion of mitral valve, the squeeze of the heart, the axis of the heart, the position of the heart, the size of the heart, the pulmonary vein entry into the left atrium, the right atrium, the tricuspid valve, mobility of the valves, the coarse trabeculations of the right ventricle, smooth left ventricle. Now we have the moderator band here. So in the right ventricle, if you have an echogenic structure in the distal part of the ventricle, and if that is connecting the papillary muscle to the interventricular septum, as shown here, then it is a moderator band and it is not an echogenic focus. Now I will take you from the 4-chamber view into 3 vessels. So the 4-chamber view will give rise to the ascending aorta, and the right ventricle will give rise to the pulmonary artery, and you will have the great vessel crisscross. So here I show you the great vessel crisscross. So the aorta will go from left to right, the pulmonary artery to left. So that is the great vessel crisscross. That's the aorta going to the right, pulmonary artery going to the left. So that's the great vessel crisscross. Now this is another view of the foramen ovale. You can see septum primum, septum secundum, and the flap and the normal foramen ovale. Another zoomed view, a high frequency probe is used. That's the septum primum, that's the septum secundum, and this is the foramen ovale. Now we will look at the flap of foramen ovale. So here you see the septum primum is moving into the left atrium. So that's the flap of the foramen ovale. It moves into the left atrium and the flap opens into the left atrium. This is right atrium, this is left atrium. So that is the flap of the foramen ovale opening into the left atrium as shown dynamically. Now that's the zoomed view of the crux. Look at the septum primum, muscular IVS, tricuspid valve, mitral valve, apical insertion of tricuspid valve, basal insertion of mitral valve, absence of ASD, absence of ESD. That's the star-shaped crux in zoomed view. Then we look at the leaflets. Look at the tricuspid valve. Make sure that the valves are thin. Make sure that they open and close symmetrically. Make sure that they coapt completely, and make sure that their echogenicity is not increased and they are freely moving. So these are the things we observe in the trach valve. Then this is the pulmonary venous anatomy. That's the right pulmonary vein, that's the left pulmonary vein, and you have to show that both pulmonary veins enter into the left atrium. This we have already done. And when the fetus is in a prone position, we can still do fetal echo, but I would recommend people not to do fetal echo when it's in a prone position. Now we have 3 vessel view in cine. That's a pulmonary artery, aorta, superior vena cava. PAS 1, 2, 3, big, medium, small, anterior, mid, posterior. Okay, so that's the 3 vessel view in cine. Now we have 3 vessel tracheal view. So the pulmonary artery becomes ductus arteriosus and stays on the left side, but the aorta becomes arch of aorta and moves from right to left side. And both these meet to the left of trachea. This is a trachea in the shape of an English letter V. So that is 3 vessel tracheal view. This is another cine. So this is the ductus arteriosus. This is the arch of aorta. This is the superior vena cava. So PAS, P becomes ductus arteriosus, A becomes arch of aorta, P stays on the left, A goes from right to left, crosses the midline, and the confluence is to the left of the trachea. This is the trachea. So this is a 3 vessel tracheal view in cine. That is, the ductus arteriosus, arch of aorta meet to the left of trachea in the shape of an English letter V. So that's the 3 vessel tracheal view. Now, when we apply color on a 3 vessel tracheal view, This is the ductus venosus, ductus arteriosus. This is the arch of aorta, and both should have the same color, either red or blue. So now this is another three-ventricular view. This is ductus arteriosus, this is arch of aorta, and that is the V confluence, and both of them have the same color. There should be no reversal of color in any of these vessels. Now that's the view above the three-ventricular view. That's the brachiocephalic vein crossing from left to right going into IVC. So that's the brachiocephalic vein. This is sternum, this is spine. Now I will show you the right pulmonary artery view. After we get the main pulmonary artery coming out from the right ventricle, now this is the right ventricle. Now we have the pulmonary artery. And from the pulmonary artery, you can see the right branch pulmonary artery will come out and go behind the arch of aorta. I may have better views. So this is the right branch pulmonary artery. So this is the main pulmonary artery. This is the aorta, the superior vena cava. And you can see this is the right branch pulmonary artery going posterior to aorta and SVC all the way into the right lung. So this is the right branch pulmonary artery view. So main pulmonary artery, right branch pulmonary artery, that's aorta, that's superior vena cava. Now I'll show you left branch pulmonary artery. So from the pulmonary artery, just because it's a left-sided structure, the left pulmonary artery immediately goes into the left lung. It is a short vessel. You saw the right branch pulmonary artery going as a long vessel to the right. Now there's a left branch pulmonary artery, which is a short vessel going into the left lung. So that's the left branch pulmonary artery. Now I will show you both pulmonary arteries together. So here we have confluence. This is right pulmonary artery, this is left pulmonary artery, and here we have both the pulmonary arteries meeting the main pulmonary artery, and this is the confluence of pulmonary arteries, and both pulmonary arteries are of good size, which is a very important structure to be shown during fit level. Now the RVOT view. So this is the right ventricle, anterior chamber, spine is posterior. That's the pulmonary artery. Here we have the pulmonary valve, and the pulmonary artery will give rise to RPA and ductus arteriosus as it comes outside. So this is the RVOT view. That's the right ventricle, which is the anterior chamber. This is the right atrium, which is the tricuspid valve. From the right ventricle, the big vessel coming outside is the pulmonary artery, and this is the RVOT view. And you can see the pulmonary valve opening and closing here. Now, this is the circle and sausage view, which I explained. So here we have right atrium, then we have tricuspid valve, right ventricle, pulmonary artery, branch pulmonary artery, and in the center, aorta. I'll show again, right atrium, tricuspid valve, right ventricle, pulmonary valve, pulmonary artery, right branch pulmonary artery, and in the center, ascending aorta. Now, in the circle and sausage view, we can see the aorta in cross section. And if you observe the aorta clearly, you can see the three cusps of the aorta, and this is called as the Mercedes-Benz sign. So you can see the car Mercedes-Benz sign here in the valve of the aorta. So in the circle and sausage view, you observe the aorta, go to the root of the aorta, you will get the three valves of the aorta. And this view we can diagnose bicuspid aortic valve. Now I have the ductal arch view. The ductal arch starts anteriorly, takes a wide course, goes posteriorly, and continues as descending aorta. There are no great branches, and the arch starts from behind the sternum, and it resembles a hockey stick. So anterior to posterior is the ductal arch view. Now I will show you the ductal arch view in color. So this is the right ventricle, so pulmonary RVOT, pulmonary artery, ductus arteriosus, descending aorta, all put together. We have the ductal arch view, which has a wide arch, no branches, and resembles a hockey stick. Now I will show you the left ventricular outflow tract view. This is left ventricle. This is ascending aorta. This is the anterior. This is the interventricular septum. This is anterior wall of aorta. So the interventricular septum continues with the anterior wall of aorta without any break. This is posterior wall of aorta. This is left. This is left atrium, and here you have the mitral valve. Here you have the aortic valve. Here you have mitral valve, and this is the aortomitral continuity. So in the LVOT view, two things we have to see. Interventricular septum seamlessly continues with the anterior wall of aorta. The anterior mitral valve continues with the posterior aortic valve, and this is the LVOT view. Now LVOT view in color, you can see that the left ventricular outflow goes into the aorta in the blue color, and there is no contribution from the right ventricle into the aorta. So the entire flow from the left ventricle goes into the fifth chamber or ascending aorta with no contribution from the right ventricle. And you can see there is no regurgitation also. So this is the LVOT view in color Doppler. Now this is another LVOT view where the aortic valve leaflets are mounted in long axis. The aortic valve should disappear completely in ventricular systole, and it should show the nice coaptation and thin nature of the valve and good mobility. Mainly, there should be complete absence of the aortic valve during complete systole when it's fully open. Now we have the aortic arch view. It starts from the mid-chest, takes a sharp curve, gives rise to great vessels, and continues as the descending aorta. So the aortic arch view resembles a handle of an umbrella. That's another aortic arch view. And you can see the great vessels coming out of the aortic arch view. So this is another aortic arch view showing the innominate artery, left common carotid, left subclavian. This is the ascending aorta, descending aorta, and that is the aortic arch view in cine using high frequency probe of a 16 to 17 week fetus. Color Doppler shows the aortic arch view with ascending aorta, arch of aorta, descending aorta, and great vessels, sharp curve. That's the aortic arch view. A parasagittal view shows the hammock view or bicable view. This is the right atrium. Cranially is the SVC, caudally is the IVC, and you can see that the hammock view shows both the IVC and SVC draining into the right atrium. With a lower pulse repetitive frequency, we can show the SVC and the IVC draining venous blood into the right atrium, and it is important to show a good length of IVC in order not to miss an interruption of IVC in heterotaxy. So whenever you take the hammock view, get a long segment of the IVC, and this is SVC IVC color Doppler again. Reduce the PRF and get the venous flow into the right atrium. So there it is. You can see the IVC and SVC both flowing into the right atrium. This is another special view called biventricular view. This is the view which those who practice cardiac MR will be familiar with. Here we have a short axis of the right ventricle, short axis of the left ventricle, and you have the papillary muscles in cross section. So this is a beautiful view to show the contractility of right ventricle and left ventricle. So this is the short axis view. This is a special view and difficult to obtain, not in the routine views. So now all views in color from below above. IVC, aorta, IVC goes into right atrium. This left atrium, pulmonary veins going into left atrium, right atrium to right ventricle, left atrium to left ventricle. No flow across the interventricular septum. Crux is intact. Left ventricle gives rise to aorta, a 5-chamber view. Aorta crosses over to that other side. Right ventricle gives rise to pulmonary artery, great vessel crisscross, 3-vessel view, and 3-vessel tracheal view. So once again from below above, is IVC, aorta, right atrium, left atrium, flow across fossa ovalis, intact crux, 4-chamber view in color, 5-chamber view with aorta coming out only from LV, great vessel crisscross, 3-vessel view, 3-vessel tracheal view. So that completes a beautiful axial section of the entire basal to apex view. This is the ductus venosus. You can get it in the mid-sagittal plane. That's the IVC. This is the umbilical vein. And here you have the ductus venosus. So this is the ductus venosus in 2D. In color, in sagittal view, this is the umbilical vein. That's the IVC. This is the hepatic vein. And this is the ductus venosus. Thymus. Thymus is seen as a mildly echogenic or a slightly hypoechoic structure with multiple perforated dot-like echogenic appearance. So this is the thymus. This is the brachiocephalic vein going from left to right to the IVC. And here you have the thymus hypoechoic, lungs are hyperechoic, bordered by sternum and by brachiocephalic vein. I will jump the abdominal views. And we will now go to, I have 15 minutes more. We will go to biometry now because it is important to look at the functional aspects of the